Okay. Alrighty. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7.
So what message are you wanting to get out there?
The message I'd like to get out there is just that, we're here really more so to help the community. In doing so, we're helping individuals and families. But it's everything that we do. Everything that we do is really community impactful.
Okay, so let's gather around that table here. Who's going to be on the show? All four of us?
Yeah,
Okay, that'd be great.
I wasn't sure you were like that, so.
It's all good. I probably won't say a lot. I'm not the huge personality that I'm here for.
It's pretty conversational show. We don't stand up formalities much. We just talk about what's going on.
Be like right in the middle.
So what we're going to do is here. Just
Okay,
exactly
good.
as far as I can be.
Do you want us to scoot over? I can scoot over if you want to get closer.
Oh, I'm trying to make sure that we're all in the shot there.
Oh,
So
is
we
it that
need
way?
to go
This
this
way.
way.
Okay, we'll just stop. How about that?
How about we go over this way? If we can take advantage of having somebody here. And then if we can go there.
Sure.
Then just kind of go in there a little bit more. Perfect. Let's see where I can. And lower that boom over there.
It's a long day.
Yep.
2 monsters and
You still have to drive all the way on. At least I live here.
it's only an hour commute.
Oh my. Good times.
I only started. I got into Newport around 6:45 this morning.
No, I didn't start quite that early. I started at 9. 8:45.
You can scoot in there. Right there. Perfect. You can scoot in there. Now we're back to So, we'll have to share a microphone. Just because if we get two microphone cables all, we'll be tripping over the cables. Sure. So there's an on button, make sure that it's turned on before you talk. And this is live on KOIC radio and then streamed live on the internet on our Facebook page and our website. And it will be starting in 5 minutes. So you've been very active in the schools.
Yep.
And you're trying to increase your visibility in the community generally.
Yes.
And so we'll talk about what do you do in the schools. Yoop is a federally funded program.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about what Yoop is, and we'll try to define it because what I heard a lot on the street when I talked to people about Yoop, a lot of people in the public aren't aware of your organization.
Right. Right.
That's something you're trying to fix.
That is. And then we
Okay.
have FAST, which serves primarily the same population, only expanded on the age group,
Okay.
but funded differently. But it is serving on the social service side much broader, but still also in the communities and all of Yamhill County.
What is the need for your organization? What are you trying to fix, or what are you serving?
Well,
I think kind of just basically having more collaborativeness with the social services and the community resources. I think that we've kind of had a little bit of inability to kind of partner.
yeah,
So your job is basically to connect the dots.
Yes.
yes.
So you possibly find students and then steer them in the right direction for connected to services?
Possibly, we do provide a lot of services, a lot of educational pieces, from financial literacy to, but that's part of financial literacy. But they just did some workshops on evictions,
Yeah, how to
their
avoid
rights.
eviction. So kind of like life skill building.
Yeah.
And I think Charlie and I are really trying hard to kind of partner together because, he kind of works with that very specific age group. And then we're trying to kind of broaden into more of a holistic, a little bit further, if they're still, challenged with connecting resources or skill development, to kind of move past that. What is your 624, right?
24.
And also to try to incorporate the family unit
Right.
and the community unit, kind of seeing everything as kind of a holistic type of model.
Right.
Okay. So what we want to talk about is some of the challenges kids are facing today.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of the stereotypes that communities have about kids, because they just see, typically what they'll see is a kid skateboarding down the street, being very, how shall we call it, uncooperative, and so they kind of have a tendency to loop a lot of that generation as an example of that kid. So the stereotypical teenager today is playing video games, and a lot of people don't feel like there's a lot of hope there for that generation.
Right.
What would you say to those folks?
Well, it's actually a very small sample size that are in that group of doing the video games. This generation that we work with has a bigger challenge than any generation beforehand in that they have too many options. Growing up, even my generation, you didn't think globally. You didn't know what was out there. So, anytime we go to the grocery store even, if there's a lot of different options there, we kind of freeze up. What do we do? What do we do? Now think about that for your entire future. If you literally can be anything you want to be, what do you do? And I think that's the biggest struggle that the young generation has now, is that they actually can be anything they want to be.
Wow. So it's just selecting from those huge smorgasbord.
Yeah. You can have, you can be a reality star to you can be a banker, you can be work in human services, you can be the president,
Sure. What's your name?
Tim Walkley.
Walkley?
Yeah, Walkley.
Would you agree that that's one of the
That's
biggest?
fine. And your name?
Jeannie, Jeanne, Lakey, Lakey, -Smith.
And
Charlie.
Charlie Whiting.
Yep.
Well, I think that's true, but I would definitely like dovetail into like the kids that you serve are a bigger like family unit, and then if you have the barriers of both parents working, or you've got they just don't have the ability to provide some of that.
Direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys ready to go on in 30 seconds?
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Seconds. AM 1260 KOIC, KOIC McMinnville, Newburgh, and we are sure glad you're with us tonight. It's KOIC Town Hall, and as you can see if you're online with us, it's a little bit of a small town hall. There's 4 people in the room. In some of the town halls we're going to be doing, as we talk about issues affecting Yamhill County, it's going to be small groups of people. In the future, we are going to have possibly an audience. For example, our December 7th show, we are going to be talking to
Slight technical difficulties.
That's what mine is. AM 1260 KLYC, and welcome to Town Hall. Yeah, okay, we seem to have our issues taken care of from a technical standpoint. Glad you're with us tonight. I'm pretty excited about the Town Hall program. We're going to be taking a look at issues affecting Yamhill County, everything from veterans issues to the lottery to economic development. For example, we have a veterans program coming up December 7th. We'll be going to be broadcasting that live from the American Legion Post 21 in McMinnville. Very big thank you for them to allow us to use the facility. We want to send an invitation out there to veterans to come in and be part of our audience. And we want to talk to veterans about veterans issues. You know, what is it like to be a veteran today? What are some of the challenges you face? There is a proposal out there by one person that was being considered to head the Veterans Administration that they just simply need to gut the organization and start over. If you're a veteran, do you think that's a good idea? What do you think? Are you being treated fairly by the VA? We expect to have some very candid comments, and that's fine. And that's coming up December 7th.
We picked that date because that's the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, and we honor veterans. So that show is going to be coming up at 5 p.m. December 7th, right here on AM 1260 KLYC. Hope you had a chance to check our town hall program last night as we talked about homelessness. We're not going to have one of these every night. This is unusual that we've got 2 programs back to back. But tonight we're going to be talking about Yoop. What is Yoop? Well, we're going to find out what Yoop is. With us here at the Yoop headquarters in McMinnville is Tim Walkie, Jeannie Lakey-Smith, and Charlie Whiting. And Charlie, I'll go ahead and hand you the microphone. Make sure your button is on there.
Yep.
Let's talk about what is Yoop.
Well, Yoop stands for Youth Opportunities Occupation Program, and it's a fairly funded program that works with at-risk youth ages 16 to 24 that need assistance in some educational pieces, maybe finishing up their high school diploma or their GED, going on to college if that's what they want to do, or getting into the trades. But it also works with developing the soft skills for career development. And then with Yoop, the way that, because we are one of Chehalem Youth and Family Services programs, we want to be more holistic. So we also work with the social service side. A lot of times people think, oh, well, I can't hold down a job because I'm just really bad at working. But it could be something else. It could be something else in their family, or it could be some other burden that is keeping their mind away from work, making it difficult to show up on time or whatever. So we look at the entire, the entire person, the entire situation. And so we also have a couple of representatives. Jeannie and Tim are both from our FAST program, which is a program that we're partnering with, also under Chehalem Youth and Family Services, and with our counseling center, our Chehalem Counseling Center. So, trying to get, again, that whole holistic approach on helping the youth, the families, and therefore the community of Yamhill County.
Now, when I talk to a number of people in the community about Yoop, there's a lot of people out there that aren't aware you exist or what Yoop stands for, which we just explained. You say that you're very active in the schools, and a lot of people in the schools know about your organization, and that you're trying to get your message out there, define yourself, brand yourself to the general public. So as you're active in the schools, how do you work in the schools? Do counselors take at-risk youth and you counsel the youth? What exactly do you do? How do you work?
So that's a good question. In years past, our program's been around for 6 years. In years past, we've been able to actively service what's classified as in-school youth. So the youth that are in school, they might be struggling with classes, needing some extra tutoring, needing some extra services. And the schools would refer them to us or give us a call and say, hey, we have this student that's really struggling. Right now, we're over capacity of our in-school youth, so we have to get more out-of-school youth, the ones that are not active in school. And so we do have some counselors, some school counselors that do contact us and say, hey, this student is about to drop out. Could we send them your way? Or they just tell the student and the families, hey, you're not attending, you're not coming to school. Go visit Yoop, see what they can do to help out as well. So, we have the both relationships aspects, and we're hoping to be able to get the numbers balanced back out to where we can get back into the in-school youth and keep them in school the whole time. Now, when I say out-of-school youth, that doesn't mean that they're out of school the entire time that they're with Yoop. They may drop out of a school on Monday, sign up with Yoop on Tuesday, and by Friday, they're back in school. But the time that they initially come with us, they have to be out of school.
So you deal with at-risk youth. You deal
Yes.
with the youth that have some challenges,
and you're trying to get them steered back on the right path.
Correct.
What are the challenges that you're facing today? Is it families? Is it drugs? Is it what's going on? What's going on out there?
It's everything. Yeah, I mean, you hit it. It is families. It is drugs. It is options. Something that I've talked about before. You know, with the internet and with the generation now, they do have far more options available to them. They have far more influences available to them now than ever before. We know about the poverty rates and how families have to work. Both parents have to work. Oftentimes, the kids have to work as well. And that makes it obviously really tight and tough for parents to be able to focus on the kids, focus on their future, even more so than in years past or generations past. So it's a little bit of everything. And it's also, I think in a lot of cases, it's a community change as well. I think in a lot of in some aspects, we're moving back to it takes a village. But there are still some aspects where we miss on that. Yes, it has always taken a village to raise, the children and raise the youth. And we veered away from it for a while, and we're starting to come back to that. But it's not as rapid as I think that it should be or could be.
So there are some families that are dysfunctional, and in some family situations it's every man for himself, so to speak. And so these kids kind of get lost in the shuffle, and that's where you come in and try to steer them correctly.
Hopefully, and again with FAST as well as Yoop, one thing that we try to do is again not just target the youth specifically, but the whole family. And the support system, and teach them what a support system actually is.
So what do? Do you go in and talk to the family?
In some cases, yeah.
How many clients? So you are basically in the McMinnville School District, correct?
No, we actually service all of Yamhill County. So we, with Yoop, Newburgh High, Mac High, Amity, Yamhill Carlton, Sheridan All Prep, and Sheridan. So we're everywhere. And then with FAST, all of the communities in Yamhill County as well.
So what do you try to do? Do you try to restore some stability to a family? And I know that's probably a tall order in some situations. What do? You go in, okay, let's say you've got a family situation, without mentioning specific names. Can you share some examples so people can kind of get an idea about just how you work?
Yeah. Can you guys think of? Yeah.
That would be Tim Walkie.
The most important thing is to meet them wherever they're at that moment. When you get it, we get referrals from our own counseling center. We get referrals from YCCO. We look at what the problem is, the major in the start. A good example is our evictions workshop that we did last night. We had several people in that had pending evictions, so we decided to organize that workshop to get the word out to the community, to try to get them to communicate with the landlord that they don't get in the problem in the first place. So every referral is different, but we look at what we need to do, and we get in there and we do it.
How many people attended that? And this was your first eviction workshop?
Yeah. Last night we had about 25 people. I personally thought that there was going to be more renters. There were not. So we're going to have to look at that. We are planning on doing another workshop in Newburgh at the end of February, somewhere around the middle of March next year.
You said you hoped there were more renters, or you had homeowners.
Well, we had some professionals, we had landlords and that kind of things. And what we basically wanted, the social work is you want to get the information out. You want to get all the information out. So the workshop was designed for the information for renters and also for landlords. So
one of the things, you go into a family, and one of the challenges that they have is being evicted. And it's hard for a family to be stable when they're living in their car. So you guys have a tall order to fill in trying to give them.
Well, we're hoping they're going to ring the bell before they're evicted, because there are certain things. For example, there are resources. Let's say that person that rings on the bell is a veteran. There are veterans vouchers from the housing authority that can help them pay their rent, but they have to ring on the bell before that happens.
Okay. So let's say we have a family that isn't being evicted. You go in and what do you do? Do an analysis of the family? Do you have a family meeting maybe?
It depends on what the situation is. We handle everything from people that need gas money to be able to go to work, gas cards, transportation. They may need child care. They may have other problems, other issues that they need to have solved to be able to go to counseling, for example.
What is if you have a top 10 list, let's take a look at the top 3. What are the top 3 leading causes of why there's dysfunction in the family and the kids are kind of going down the wrong path? What do you think?
I would say working parents.
Working-
I really feel like that if you have the parents that are just trying to make ends meet and they're just, I think that that's the biggest one, whether they're underemployed or, so they have to work more hours or work overtime or work, just to pay the rent. So that's the one that pops into my head.
So when you say working parents, are you talking about lack of supervision or just a lot of stress in the household because they can't pay their bills?
Both. I would say both.
So what do you do in this situation?
Well, I think, a lot of times with our FAST, and it actually stands for Family Advocacy Support Team, so
Okay.
it's an acronym. But I think what we try to do is kind of the same thing as like with the Yoop, except for it's with, more of the adults or the parents where they need to work on the soft skills or they need to, take some time to like figure out how to look, what resources to connect to so they feel like some of that pressure. Because there's resources out there. It's just really, you're working, you're not going to have time to go and try to, engage in every resource. And Yamhill County actually has a lot of really good resources for the community. It's just I think where we've been challenged is bringing that all together. Because a person isn't going to have time to call 6 different people, but if you kind of have a point person or an advocate where they can kind of look through those, make those phone calls, so I think that's the biggest thing.
Is that your job essentially?
Pretty much.
Especially for the youth.
And yeah, for the youth, and we kind of more are geared towards.
We are in for anybody who qualifies for the Oregon Health Plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that could be somebody homeless up to $60,000, I think.
So working parents is item 1 on the list. What's item 2 as far as why kids are having challenges? What do you think?
I can say again.
Go ahead.
So I think one of the
And
other.
this is Jeannie Lakey Smith.
I don't mind. I think one of the other things is just advocacy in the school. So I think, one of the examples that I can think of, and without being general, we had someone that was referred to us that mom was struggling with an IEP, and how does that work? And how can I advocate and communicate for my kid to get the right resources?
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it's really, we all know in this field that we have a lot, like you said, a tall order. We have
Right.
a lot of need, and it takes a lot of people. And so I think sometimes the kids fall through the cracks, and, if they're not, that's kind of how I feel. And I think probably Charlie could speak more to that, but I feel like that if we can kind of partner with the school counselors, partner with the special ed people, where we could be like, we can help with you and kind of figure it out, instead of like, this is your responsibility and we've got these kids dropping out, or,
So you say mom's struggling with an IEP. IEP stands for Individual Educational Plan.
correct.
So
We're all
kids,
about the acronyms here.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to define those for people. So when a kid is having a problem and they develop easy, sometimes I believe if it's talented and gifted on the other end, where they're, a grade 4 student or a 4.0 student, and they're bored and they develop an IEP, but they also can do it on the other end, where the
Correct.
kids need special attention, and so an IEP is developed, or a specialized educational plan. Now, you say in your item 2 example that mom is having trouble with the IEP. What do you mean by that?
I think just feeling, knowing the process, understanding the process, just having someone there to, because if anybody's ever been in an IEP meeting, you have everybody around the table, they're all talking, this and that, and we all bring our pieces to the table, and then you kind of have, a parent there that is bringing all this in, who's already struggling with, their child, and so just kind of someone to sit there to help, to even, because with this particular situation, after the IEP meeting, we kind of had a debriefing, kind of like, okay, so this is kind of the process, this is the steps, and, and also just being able to know what their rights are, or, direct them in the right place for them to get an assessment, because, a lot of times with the IEPs, there has to be some type of a medical reason for it. Sometimes that can be mental health, sometimes that can be, behavioral stuff, and just getting them in the right direction to even get the assessment done. So just kind of, I think, having them be able to navigate the whole process, figure it out. And if you're under stress, anybody that's under stress isn't going to necessarily be able to figure it all out. They're just trying to get that urgent need met.
Sure. Item 3 on our top 10 list. About,
I have an item 3.
you want to add something to that?
I do. Well, item 3, what I would say would be negative talk, both
Okay.
self and within the quote-unquote support system. You can't do this, I can't do this, I'll never amount to anything, you'll never amount to anything. If you do that, you think you're better than us. All these negative things that are said rampantly
In the home environment or
in
at
the
school?
home, in the schools, in the community, in our media presence, whether it's TV shows or it's in the news. The demographic isn't necessarily portrayed in a very positive light, or you're not going to, you think you're going to be able to run a company, you can't even pass your math class, or little things like that. It just, little things add up to big things, and the negative talk is something that is a huge barrier for anybody. But when it's just hammered to you every day of your life, it makes it to where it becomes
You believe it.
reality. Exactly. And so one of the things that Yoop does is we actually have a class that's called Rethinking Careers. And I've gone through similar trainings before to kind of work with clients that I've worked with in the past, and I've never endorsed any of them. In fact, I'd get done with the training, I'd go back to work and say, that was a waste of time, you shouldn't have sent me there, because I just didn't buy it. This one, what I really like about it is that they use a lot of, they actually use data, or they used data to develop the course. Rethinking Careers isn't exactly what it sounds like by the name. When I first heard it, I thought, so we're teaching kids who don't even know what a career is to think about a different career. What it's actually doing is it's using cognitive behavior techniques to reshape the thinking process and get rid of those negative thoughts that creep into our minds. Like, how many times has somebody gotten an email from their boss or a phone message from their boss that says, come meet me, and the first thing that comes to mind is, what did I do wrong?
I'm going to get fired.
Exactly. What if it was, hey, you did this great? So you go in with the idea of, what did I do wrong? And you walk into the room, you're timid, you're worried about what's going to be said, and you might miss something that was very positive or important in that meeting. If you go in with the idea of, hey, I've done everything I'm supposed to do, maybe I'm getting a kudos. You go into the meeting with a completely different mindset. So that happens in everything in our lives. That if we eliminate those negative thoughts, we eliminate the negative distractions, and bring in the positive, it's much more likely we're going to be successful.
But how do you do that with a kid that is constantly fed negative? Home, school, media, rap songs. They're just constantly, we no longer live in this environment of Father Knows Best, where Ozzie and Harriet are raising their kids and, everything is peachy keen at home. It's kind of not that way anymore.
Right.
So we have kids that are being fed this diet of negative. How do you flip that around?
Well, you have to build that rapport. You have to build the trust with the youth, with anybody that you're working with, on trying to change where they're at. I use myself as an example. I didn't come from a very wealthy family at all. I look back at how much my dad made, and I go, how did we even eat? And I would get told. I've even asked my dad, and he goes, "Why do you think we had a lot of barley soup? I could just add water." It was, and I went to college. I waited until I had already been married, started a family before I went to college. I didn't have family support to do that financially, so I took out that investment. I started believing in myself. I had in high school, I was a troublemaker. I wasn't the greatest student at all. I did have a couple teachers that did believe me or believe in me, and I brushed them off because I knew best.
Sure.
All right.
I'm the captain of my own ship, and you're not going to tell me what to do.
Exactly. I'll do what I want. I had a good paying job, or a good job at the time, and I'm good. I'm good. And one day I just woke up and went, I'm not good. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I'm getting paid extremely well, but I'm not liking what I'm doing. I want to be happy. I want to be happy in life. And I started making those changes. I surrounded myself with different friends. I surrounded myself with people who lifted me up and said, yeah, no, that is possible. And that's you do. You build the rapport with anyone you're working with so that they can see that it is possible for themselves.
So you had somewhat of the light came on for you.
Yes, that aha moment.
Some of these kids need help with that aha moment or getting the light turned on. Mm-hmm. What do we do to reach these kids? I know it's obviously organizations like you that say, hey, there's a way to do this. But what are some of the ways that you try to reach these kids to try to turn them around?
Yeah.
So I think also, too, just to kind of expand on what Charlie was saying, I think negative self-talk tends to spiral into negative image, spiral into, everything is just not good. And I think, really working at that negative self-image, that negative self-esteem, and really kind of reframe of, having that supportive person, it's more of a leg up, not a hand out. So really trying to just change dialogue, change your way of thinking, your cognitive, like, Charlie was saying with the cognitive behavior techniques, is it's really changing your frame of mind. So, and so you even go even a further layer than just the negative self-talk, but then you're looking at, so what does that self-image look like? What is that? And, and it's generational. A lot of times when you're in some type of a family where you're lots of generations of poverty, all of them just kind of work off of each other. And so, and I agree. I think really just to be able to build rapport, to be able to build a relationship, I think all of us can probably think back and be like, we had some challenges, we had some struggles, but I can think of one person or, a mentor or a teacher or a coach or, that was like, I believe in you.
So are you folks kind of like life coaches in a way?
That's a good question.
I don't know that we can actually use that title because there is that title, that
Right.
profession, and
I-
we're not in there. But you could.
Well, we were talking about having an individual or a person that can speak into a kid's life and say, "Hey, you can do better than this," and be a coach, be a friend, be a mentor. We're using terms like that because people can relate to that,
Right.
instead of some of the terms that we're throwing out here.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of explain that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that in the global sense, and we could say, we're being more like a life coach, and anybody in the social service side is doing that, because we're trying to increase and better your life situation, no matter what level of human services, social services that you're in. That's what you're hoping to do. I think, going back to a previous question, though, of how do we help that youth or that individual hit that aha moment?
Right.
I think the other key thing is we target a success. That success could be something as simple as, you called me today, you walked through my door today. Just something simple. We have a youth who here in the Yoop program who's been struggling with academics, been struggling mightily with academics, and when he was first assessed, he was graded really low. 3 months later, he jumped up 4 grade levels. And the whole time in those 4 months, he kept having that negative self-talk of, I'm just too dumb to do this. I can't figure this out.
I'll never make it.
Remember, I'll never make it. I'm wasting everybody's time. And when we did that reassessment, and when we did the reassessment, it was really just hey, why don't we do something different today? It wasn't even a planned thing. It's, let's just do something different today. We've been doing the same thing every day. Let's do something different. Let's see where you're at today. And when he jumped up, just the joy that he had in himself and the pride that he had in himself at that moment was huge. And it made the next day so much easier for him when he came back in to work on something else, because he saw, hey, there was some success.
That was his aha moment.
That was part of his aha moment. And that's the thing. Everybody's aha moment is completely different. It's about us helping to recognize that that's what it is, and that it is a success. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't, oh, you guessed correctly today. It was, you put in the hard work, and look what came out of it.
You're federally funded. The Yoop program that serves Yamhill County is federally funded. What do you need to be more successful, to reach more youth, to turn kids around more? Do you need volunteers? Do you need more money? What do you need?
Yes and yes and.
Okay. So let's talk about volunteers.
Yeah.
What can people do as volunteers?
Well, within the Yoop program, our volunteers could be, if we have, let's say somebody's out there that's a retired teacher and would like to, come in and help with tutoring. We work with, again, kids in school as well as kids working on their GED. And again, I'm not the best at every subject, but extra tutoring or if, we do try to have mentors from where they work with our participants, but outside of the program per se. So helping, meeting people for lunch or for, ice cream or soda or whatever, and just talking about how's your day going. I think in general, to be able to reach more kids, reach more youth, reach more adults that are at risk, I think that we need a community that is, and again, we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. I'm seeing that, and I'm new to the area. We need a community that is welcoming and saying their struggles are our struggles. So let's help.
So how do we move towards that? What would be first steps towards moving to a community that raises a child, for example? We used that term a little bit ago.
Yeah. understanding the resources that are there, understanding that there's more than just DHS, and just under DHS, all the different aspects. But
In other
there's-
words, it's their job to fix it.
correct. And know what's around. Again, we partner with a lot of different services, Lutheran services. We partner with YCAP, Housing Authority. We partner with WorkSource and Voc Rehab, and there's all these different entities, and nobody needs to know what every single entity does, but understanding that they're there, and with the state agencies, sometimes there's a fear, right? There's a fear of, and I'm gonna use DHS. And,
Sure.
and DHS does a lot of great, but there's a lot of fear of going to DHS at the same time. There shouldn't be.
Fear you're gonna lose your kids.
Or whatever it may be, whatever your struggle is, that it'll be magnified, and that's not what DHS's role is. But if there's that fear to go there, well, you know what? There's other services that can help limit that fear. There's again, what we do, what FAST does, what Lutheran services do, Yamhill County does. There's all these different services in the community. Obviously, I'm going to be a little selfish, and I want everybody to come here because, well, that's what I do.
Well, let's talk about that for a little bit. Do we need to have more interagency, intergovernmental cooperation? There can be situations in government agencies where there's a little bit of turf warfare going on. This is my area, stay out of it. That would tend to lead one to think that's probably not the most efficient way for everybody to row the boat in the same direction.
You're absolutely correct there too. Definitely, we need more department cooperation and inter-organization cooperation as well. And it is kind of tough because when it comes to funding, in these, every organization has benchmarks, so they have these targets that they have to hit, whether it's number of people served or certain outcomes of those individuals that you're serving, whatever. And so,
That feeds the monster.
Exactly, and 100% feeds the monster because until you reach your quote unquote quota, you're not likely to send to somebody else to help them meet their quota, right? We definitely get that salesman mentality that really should not be, because it makes the system less client friendly
or less results oriented. It's more about, let's make sure we're funded next year, and so we need to make sure that we're proving our case.
Yes.
Selling our case.
Yeah.
How do we change that? We're solving the world's problems here tonight, so let's go for it.
Another great question, and it's a question that's asked all the time, and it's answered all the time, and yet it's never been fixed. Obviously, one of the biggest things I think that needs to happen is that there needs to be communication top to bottom in the services and in the states and at the federal level. It can't just be let's say legislation making all of the determinations, all of the rules, all the expectations, and filtering that down. There has to be some give and take all the way. Just like I've used this analogy before, and I think Jeannie's heard me say this, where human services, social services, is no different than any corporation. Mm-hmm. You have your CEO, you have your president, you have your upper management, middle management, you have your frontline staff, you have your consumers, right? With a big corporation, if there isn't communication all the way top to bottom, it starts to fall. It'll turn corrupt, or there's things that get neglected in the service side because it becomes money driven or profit driven, whatever it may be. But it starts to fall. Same thing happens in this realm. If there isn't that communication, if it ends up being top heavy or bottom heavy, it starts to fall because people aren't looking at everything and looking at the what can we do to help this population that we're saying is in need. They take it as we know best. Well, we're not in that situation, so how can we know best, right? Somebody at the state level and legislation isn't at the frontline level.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And when they do, if they do come visit a program, are they going to see what actually happens in the day, or are they going to see what the agency might want them to see for the day, or are they going to see what the clients? Are they going to get the clients that we typically have that day? Or so. There needs to be that communication top to bottom, I think, and the only way that's going to happen is if the communities start holding everybody accountable as well.
And obvious question I'm going to ask next is, how do we do that? I know we can do one way. We can do it is the ballot box.
Ballot box, but I mean the grassroots effort has been shown over and over and over how it can be so great. So programs like yours, people in the field not being afraid to talk about it, get out in the community, people needing the services. Don't be afraid to talk about what you actually need. A lot of times we think, society-wise, we think that if we talk about our needs that we're being selfish. But we're not. There's a level of self-advocacy that needs to be done at the same time. And so the "you guys will fix it" is just as bad as the "it's your problem." So it's getting everybody needs to talk about what their needs are. And then when it comes to election time, hold people accountable for what they say. If they've been in the office and the last election they said, well, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. Did they actually do it? If they didn't, why didn't they do it? If it was because it just wasn't important to them anymore, well, let's get somebody who it is important. Whatever your values, whatever is important to you at the time, but that's how it should be viewed when it comes time for that, holding the decision makers accountable. And I think even within organizations, you have the same issue. The employee needs to hold the management accountable as well.
One of the things that I've noticed in church organizations, in government, or in volunteer organizations, basically any organization, if you've heard about the 80-20 rule, 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work. And the organization are constantly trying to figure out how to get those other folks engaged, where they don't think that somebody else will always do it. If we have more people on the oar, we can get more things done. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if more people are talking about the issue, if more people are helping with the issue, things can be done. Yeah.
So one of the things that we want to do kind of with the town hall program is see if we can motivate those people that are sitting on the fence or always think that it's somebody else's responsibility to do it, to fix it, to be the mentor. Okay, let's say you're listening to the radio program or watching on the video, and you're, let's say, a 55-year-old guy, and maybe you've never had kids, maybe you can't relate to kids, and so you don't think that you have anything to offer. I would ask you to reconsider that, and you might. If you've been a successful businessman, you've been successful in life, maybe you've never had a child or a youth that you raised up, but don't think that you don't have anything to bring to the table, because I think you do. And I think one of the challenges we have in society today is that We have too many of those people that say, I can't make a difference. And they don't. Go ahead.
And I think too, kind of to talk about the holistic approach, and kind of going back to the question of, how can we kind of work together a little more? And I think really, and talking about the turf wars and that kind of stuff
Right.
that is a challenge, I think if we can kind of think about a person as more than just one thing, a holistic person is all of these different needs, all of these different things, and even if you're addressing one of those needs, doesn't mean that there isn't 16 other things that you could, just like you said, even if you feel like that you can't be a mentor, get donate a pair of shoes for somebody, because and then that way it's like, I'm still thinking about you, I'm still thinking about your needs. So I think really trying to get away from the only one need and really seeing a whole unit, all the way down to the individual, the family, the community, and see it as more of a bigger picture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would like to blow up the 80-20 rule. I'm tired of seeing 20% of the people doing 80% of the work. And folks just engage.
Well, right, and exactly like you said, it could be whatever your skill set is, whatever your, if to just say no, that I'm not a specialty, I don't do specialty work in that area. There's so many other things that you can bring to the table to have that holistic approach and that understanding that it's not just an individual, and even the individual has layers of needs and stuff. So
let's say somebody's listening to the program. Charlie, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that just a couple of weeks ago, I spoke with somebody who wants to be able to volunteer with Yoop. And with her schedule, it was going to make things really, really challenging. She came up with the idea to help with some of our office stuff as well, like our brochures or some of our marketing aspects, using her strengths in that. And the advantage to that is then it frees myself or frees somebody else up within the agency to where we have more time to work with the youth or with the families or what have you. So even you may not think that you have the time to come in and do something, or well, like you said, I don't really connect well with youth. Mm-hmm. But it's not always about what, like, you may not think that you connect well, but they might connect with you. We may have a kid who has a very similar personality as you do, and now they connected with you. And maybe you're 55 years old and you weren't successful. You still have a lot to offer to say, don't make the same mistakes that I made. Mm-hmm. I did this, I focused on this because I thought this was the most important thing. I'm 55 now, I'm 65 now, I'm 35 now, and I realize that wasn't the most important thing. This was something that was much more valuable. So you always have something to add. You always have something to contribute, whether you were super successful, you felt you weren't successful, it doesn't matter. You can help somebody else become successful.
So I guess a message that we also have that we hope that you hear, if you are one of those young people or older people that just don't feel like you can do any better, you can change, or you can make it, you can. And there are people that, there's lots of organizations here in Yamhill County that want to help you turn that corner.
Yeah.
So don't give up. Job fairs, every so often we're reading public service announcements about job fairs coming up. There's one, I believe, coming up tomorrow. Yeah, at Chemeketa Community College. I believe at 10 a.m. is when it starts.
Yep.
That's a good example. That's a way to turn the corner. So if you're looking for a job, one of the first things you can do is put your shoes on in the morning, go out the door, and go to the job fair. That's a positive step forward.
Or resources of how to get a job. Job fairs aren't just about getting a job or going and seeing companies that are hiring. It's also about seeing those organizations that also help you not only get the job, but hold down a job as well, given the, like with Yoop or with Fast, developing those additional skills or understanding how to ask for a raise, which is a very scary thing, or whatever. There's a lot more to a job fair than just getting a job.
Youth employment opportunities. What you do, Charlie, you and I talked, I believe yesterday or the day before. One of the things you do is try to help kids get employment and keep employment.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that. How does that work? What do you do?
Well, again, we work on the self-esteem and self-worth. We
Always seems to come back to that.
always comes back to that. Yes, and then we work on those soft skills, the communication, knowing that you need to call your boss before you're going to be late, not after you're already late, or even how to communicate with your team or with a customer. So we have what we call a internship program. We call it PIP, and it goes through 10 weeks of working with our participants in all of the different soft skills that are needed to be successful in employment. Things that employers have said, this is what we're looking for, this is what we need. Mm-hmm. So for 10 weeks, 3 days a week, they're going through that. Once they're finished with that, then we do that Rethinking Careers class that we were talking about earlier. And that's a 7-week course, 2 days a week. While they're doing that, they're working on interview skills, they're building their resume, so forth. And then they're also working with WorkSource to help with an internship, or well, now it's called a work experience location, where they gain 200 hours of supervision time in a job. Various different employers. I know that WorkSource is always looking for additional employers. So if you're an employer out there, contact either myself or WorkSource, and let's see what we can do to get you to where you can also help these youth, because they're getting supervised and evaluated every 40 to 50 hours in the 200-hour span. We all know if we're being evaluated, we're more likely to be, on a consistent basis, we're more likely to be successful, because we're going to know what we are A, good at, and B, need to work on. And then the team between WorkSource and you, we get those evaluations as well, so then we can also add on to, hey, you're doing this great, you're doing this great, we need to fine-tune this. And by the time that they're done with the 200 hours, hopefully they've got the skills, the communication skills, the work ethic skills, and just again, that confidence that they can hold down a job.
If people, we're getting close to the end of the program now. Tim, sorry. Can't read my own writing. We haven't talked to you for a few minutes. Is there anything that you want to add to the conversation?
If I look at myself personally, I think if anybody's out there listening, I think it's really important just to stand up and do something. 2 years ago, I was a volunteer ombudsman. I was visiting assisted living facilities in Yamhill County. I finished up my bachelor's at George Fox. I'm now a master's student at George Fox in the social work program. So everything is possible. And if you just get out there and try, there are people that will help you. Whether you don't believe that or not, because I'm the proof that if you want to do it, you can do it.
I love movie quotes, and if people know me, they know what I'm going to say. One of the quotes I love from the movie Apollo 13, Gene Kranz, they're trying to figure out how to get the spaceship back after it's exploded. And one of the things is when they're trying to figure out how much oxygen and electricity to keep, he says, failure is not an option.
That's right.
That is one of the things that drives me.
That's correct.
And you just keep going. Sometimes the way to win is keep going.
That's correct. And there's a lot of programs out there to help. You just have to get out there. You have to ask. You have to contact us. You have to go to WorkSource. You have to do some things yourself. It's just not going to fall into place.
Right. So don't give up.
Don't give up.
Job fair tomorrow, 10 o'clock, Chemeketa Community College. If you're looking for a job, show up. If you want to help out and be involved in the Yoop program, maybe you've heard something tonight that's kind of pushed your button a little bit and challenged you. How do the people contact you and get engaged?
Well, here in McMinnville, we're on our address for our location is 180 Northeast 7th Street. So we're right on the corner of 7th Street and Baker. Come in. We're open Monday through Friday. Well, Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. and Fridays from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And we love to have you come in and talk with us. You can also email myself at cwhiting, that's WHITING, at cyfs.net. And be more than happy to answer any questions, set up an appointment for us to talk more, and see what we can do to help you help us. A movie quote from Jerry Maguire.
There you go. We're just full of movie quotes. And, sometimes helping youth today, you don't have to sign up. Sometimes you can just say something positive, positive to a kid who might be having a bad day, maybe just in the grocery store. Maybe you can be that turning point in a kid's life when you just say something in passing. Case in point, this happened in my life, was I said something apparently to someone in an organization. They came to me later and they said, "I really want to thank you for what you said." And I said, "Really, what did I say?" I couldn't remember it for the life of me. I could not remember the person or what I said. I said, "Are you sure you have the right person?" They said, "Oh yeah. I've always wanted to tell you thank you for those encouraging words." And sometimes you don't know two things. Number one, you don't know how much damage you're doing with the discouraging words. And then on the positive side, sometimes, like the case I just exampled, sometimes when you say an encouraging word, you can make such an impact on that person that you don't realize just how positive that is. When somebody comes back to you months, a year later, and says, "Thank you for doing that," and you can't even remember what you said, then obviously you made a huge impact. So that's a kind of thing that you can do by just being. You don't even have to sign up for a program, although we wish you would. But sometimes it's just being a bright spot in a dark day for somebody having a dark day.
Yep.
Well, and I think just to address that part, really I've been in this field for a really, really long time, and sometimes, and we're such a society that is product driven, that it's like if you don't see that product right away, you're like, well, I'm not making any difference. But I really see it as we can just plant the seed. You might not, you could 20 years from now, and I've actually had kids that I worked with and, certain things that have come back to me 20 years later, and they're like, that one little thing that you said, and I would have had a clue that
Sure.
was just that little seed that I had planted, but I didn't necessarily see, the end product. So just to keep that in mind, that because we're such a society that's product driven, and so if you don't see something automatically or immediate, it's like, oh, it's not worth it. But
And then you quit.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, the phone number for Yoop. Yoop stands for what?
Youth Opportunities Occupation Program.
Youth Opportunities Occupation Program.
Yep.
Phone number.
And our phone number in MAC is 503-883-9768. And
Okay.
in our Newburgh office
Sure.
is 503-554-1461.
And remember the holistic. We got the family advocacy support team too. So we actually are just going to have a satellite office here. We have done a lot of our work in Newburgh, but starting pretty soon, we're going to have a person here. So if you're even a family struggling, Charlie and I work really close together. So I'm not going to throw out all my numbers, but if you are, are a family that's struggling, contact him and he can connect you with us. So.
All right. That's what the Yoop program is about, and we hope that we maybe encourage you to do something good for your community. Let's all work together. We're doing a Coach for Kids campaign, and one of the things that one of our persons that does did a commercial for Coats for Kids. If you're listening to the radio station, you've probably heard it. We've got this young man, I can't remember which city he lives in, says, we can do this, Yamhill County. We can.
Mm-hmm.
And Coats for Kids, we can do this. We're trying to raise 500 coats, or gather 500 coats. We've only raised 70 coats so far. But we're still out there saying we can do this. And it's just an example of just not giving up. Just keep on keeping on.
Yep.
I guess we're being cheerleaders tonight, but that's okay. We've been talking to Tim Walkie, Jeannie Lakey Smith, and Charlie Whiting of the Yoop program.
As well as FAST under CYFS, Chehalem Family Youth Services.
Thank you for being on KLYC Town Hall tonight.
Thank you.
And we have Wolfman Jack coming up. Stick around, more to come.